that rousing
Oh yeah, it is
horsepower.
fun. Well, you know, I always say all the fun's between 40 and 120. Welcome to that episode of Jay Leno's Garage. The car we're featuring today, 1987 Volkswagen Scirocco 16 valve. This is a car that's here today because it's going to help me fill in a gap in my automotive knowledge. You know, in the 80s, I was kind of working hard in my career. I was on the road a lot. I had just bought my Countach, it was a year old. I bought that in 87, it was in 86. I paid $70,000. It seemed like crazy money at the time for the car. And I was sort of captivated on that whole Italian thing and Ford Cobras. And so consequently, Scirocco just seemed like a regular car at the time. It's not one I ever experienced, but I always hear from people how well they handled, how exciting they were to drive. I just never got to experience one. Anyway, I want to find someone who's an expert on this particular model. So I found Jason Cammisa. He is, well, he was at Road and Track for years. What, you technical editor and all of that?
Tech editor, Road and Track, Automobile, and then Motor Trend.
And now, of course, you're on Hagerty. You've got a bunch of YouTube channels.
Yeah,
okay.
bunch of YouTube
And this is your favorite car, and I'm curious, we all have cars that just affect us in different ways. I mean, I always thought these were nice, but you know, when I was growing up, it was either the cars from the throwback era to the 60s or the 50s, or looking towards the future. There wasn't a lot in the 80s that caught my eye at the time. And how long have you had this one?
26 years.
Wow.
So
okay.
I got it in 97. Please don't touch it, sir. I'm
yeah.
kidding. No, what you were saying is basically this was a car for common people. And at the time you were, you know,
and you were pretty common as I remember. Yeah.
I'm still common.
With the shorts. And
trash.
Yeah.
Complete trash. And the car fits that perfectly. I was a German car fan. As a kid, I went to high school in Germany. And I knew nothing about Scirocco's at all. I wanted a Golf. My dad kind of reneged on a deal to buy me a car in college. And I said, I'll show you. He gave me a credit card for emergencies. And I bought this on the credit card.
Oh, wow.
For $1,500 because I'm nice.
Did you buy this in Germany or here?
No, bought this in the US.
Okay.
I had never even sat in a Scirocco. Drove it. I flew down to Florida from the Northeast and drove it home. And by the time I got home, I'm like, that's it. It was done. This is the one. I do. Put a ring on it. I'll take it forever. But I've driven literal thousands of cars for work. Driven basically everything in production for the last 30 years. And this is still the one that makes me laugh the most, which is weird because it shouldn't. It's a common car for common people.
Well, it's a good look. You know, it's so funny because I'm way older than you are. And to me, Volkswagen was always nice, and there was a cute aspect, the Bug and the hippie van and all that kind of stuff. And then the next gen, the Rabbit, it didn't do much for me. And then I didn't pay any attention to the Golf, and the Scirocco just seemed like another version. But it's not. This is a much more sophisticated.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It really is. So Volkswagen's first platform post-Beetle in 1974 was the A1 platform.
Right.
And I tell people this all the time. Remember, A1. This is their first attempt at a new car after the Beetle lineage.
And also a fine steak sauce.
Yes, I was really good at that.
Yeah.
Not as spicy as these are,
No.
though. So the first car to debut on the A1 chassis was the original Scirocco, Mark I. Then it became the Golf, sold as a Rabbit.
Now the Mark I was nothing real special, was it?
It was the same thing underneath as this, but it was a Golf with a sexy body on it.
Okay.
So what Volkswagen did to sort of get attention for this new generation of cars post-Beetle was to hire Giorgetto Giugiaro, the designer, and he penned the Golf, the original Scirocco, Jetta, and then there was a pickup truck and a cabriolet all based on that same A1 platform. This is a Mark II Scirocco, so the second gen car, but it's the same exact platform underneath. So the Sciroccos were a first gen GTI, an original Golf GTI with a lower roof.
So what are we looking at, 160 horse, something like that?
Not even. So all of the originals were between 90 in the US and then 110, 112 in Europe.
Okay.
This was the reason this has 16 valve in its name, because it was Volkswagen's first 4-valve engine. So it's a 1.8 liter, 123 horsepower for the US, 139 PS or German horsepower for Europe. It was really early in the 4-cylinder days. I mean, Ferrari had gone in 83 to 85, 86, and this engine went into production in 85. So early 16-valve double overhead cam for the era. It right now has a 2-liter in it. So I put the European cams and intake on it, and then a 2-liter bottom end slots right in underneath. So now it's about 170 horsepower.
Oh, okay.
But they were 7s to 60 new.
That's got to make a substantial difference.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really good-looking car, and it's a Carmen body, is it?
It's carbon body. Look at the rear window and the rear window kink and tell me what you see, if you're right here. This looks to me exactly like a BMW's Hofmeister kink, which is that
Oh, I know what you say, yes.
that kink right in the rear window.
Okay.
And it's disturbed me ever since I got this car.
And is it true?
Well, so Giugiaro did the first one, which everyone loves the original Scirocco. It's the
Right.
pretty one, this is the ugly one, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
The original show car that he did called the Asso di Quadri, the Ace of Diamonds, was part of a Ace, there was diamonds, clubs, whatever,
Right.
was a BMW, it was an E21 3 Series that had a Hofmeister kink, and it was a front engine rear drive car. This is a dead ringer for that car.
Oh, that's interesting.
So Volkswagen says they did it internally. I would love to hear what Mr. Giugiaro says, because I think he's going to say a lot of things like this with his hands, and
Right.
like they copied my design.
Right.
But that's hopefully, if Giugiaro, Mr. Giugiaro, if you're watching, Jay wants to know.
More information than I really needed to know, but that's okay. That's okay. But it's sort of a timeless design. I like this era. I like the clean look of it. I think you could sell something very close to this today, and it would still look contemporary. Disc brakes all the way around?
Yeah, Volkswagen's first four-wheel discs,
Okay.
power rack and pinion steering.
So this is really a step up for Volkswagen.
It was. This was the last of the A1 chassis, and so it got all the things that the original GTI never got, like power steering, four-wheel discs, 16 valve, and so this was the end of the run for them. And this became the Corrado afterwards
But you bought it when you didn't know what it was.
for $1,500 to screw my
Right,
dad.
and then you
yeah.
fell in love with it. So it's like imprinting on a goose. The first thing when you open your eyes, whatever you see, that's your parents.
Yeah.
Right? So it seems like,
Basically-
I mean, if you had driven home a 71 Pinto, would that have,
No. You know what it was with this car? It was, first of all, I don't do coupes. You know, my taste is like upright hatchback, sort of wolf in sheep clothing. I don't
Right.
like the idea of a four-seater with two doors. It's stupid.
Right.
I don't particularly like front-wheel drive cars because
Right.
my nickname was Slideways. I was always sideways. And so it's kind of everything I didn't want. Got in it, and the motor and the steering. And so it weighs 2356. There's nothing, no weight here.
right?
And enough power to have fun. And it's the weight and power work in a front-wheel drive car when they're this light and this powerless. And so it likes to handle sideways. It loves to be sideways, these cars.
And how successful was this in this second generation? Was it a huge success? Was it nominal? It was okay? I mean, did most people see it the way you saw it? Did it go sales
The reviews
through
were
roof?
great. The reviews were great back
Right.
back in the day. They sold, I think, only about 10,000 of them in the U.S. for, I think, two reasons. One, it was expensive. It was
Right.
15,000 bucks.
Right.
At the time when a Countach was 70, I think. I
Right,
mean, that's high. The second thing is this body style came out in 82, and the frame underneath went into production in 74.
Okay.
So you're talking bones of a car that are 14 years old when it's,
Right.
towards the end there.
Okay.
And a shape that people had been looking at for too many years.
Yeah.
So no, not a huge success.
And how many miles have you put on it?
111,000
Wow.
total.
Okay.
I shipped it to Germany once. I built an engine for it, and I thought, I don't like the idea of a theoretical top speed.
Right.
So I shipped it to Germany for a week.
And what kind of top speed did you get out of it?
135,
Oh, okay.
which was horrifying. Don't do it.
And this,
Scary.
is it you just all over the road?
Over 120, which was its original top speed, it's light, shall we say.
Wow.
The front end gets really light
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you had it on the Autobahn.
on the
obviously.
1,100 miles of top speed to break in the engine.
You know, I had a 95 Corvette on the Autobahn, and we didn't have the restriction. So you could take it to, you could hit 170. And I was passing the BMW guys, they're at 155,
Yeah.
Mercedes is 155. And I would pull into like a restaurant with a Corvette, this Corvette, yeah! And the people go, like it was a Ferrari prototype. They just went crazy. Kids wanted to sit in it, oh yeah. I was like, because they don't see them,
It's all what you can't get.
Yeah,
We all want
yeah.
what we can't get.
Let's open the hood.
Sure.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
Have you bought another one as a spare?
I built a cabriolet as a spare.
Okay.
So the same, the four-seat convertible, the same underneath. So that one also got a 2-liter 16 valve with
Right.
all the other goodies. So and when you own old Volkswagens, you need spares. So I might as well
Right,
just have
okay.
a driving spare.
And I got the battery right over the front wheel. It seems like it would be heavy.
It's very front heavy.
Yeah,
They are very front heavy.
Do you ever think of relocating it to the back or the rear seat?
I did on the Cabriolet.
Yeah.
But it really, the reality is this car works balance-wise, handling-wise, with all the weight up here.
Right.
It's got a torsion beam at the back, so it's fully independent. The strut's up front, and that torsion beam is not a sophisticated suspension. And it all works, and I'm afraid to screw it up, to be honest with you.
Is this like Scirocco 16 valve piece only, this stabilizer bar here? Or
Aftermarket.
Oh, that is
So,
after. Oh, this
yeah,
wasn't on the car.
No, one of the biggest weaknesses, again, 1974 production for a Golf.
Right.
One of the biggest weaknesses on this car is its structure. It just doesn't have one. So the aftermarket jumped in really quickly to make upper strut bars, and then I have a 4-point triangulated cross member on the underneath to hold everything where it's supposed to be, because otherwise it's just a piece of spaghetti.
Now, do you find others who share your passion for these?
Yeah, I've actually made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Because of this car.
I mean, is there a big Scirocco community, or is it so small as to be?
They're big, but they're mostly on the east side of the U.S.
Yeah.
I find that I've seen two, in 15 years of living in California, I've seen two Scirocco 16 valves on the road.
Really? That's it?
That you just don't see them. They were fast and cheap. And they snap oversteer. So fast, cheap, and sideways means tree.
Right.
So they're all gone. Plus they rusted out. This has been a challenge to kind of keep this one.
Is this a car you're keeping your whole life?
That's it. Number one. Bury me in it.
Really?
Yeah. I know. And look, I'm sorry. I have a Ferrari and I have a Lotus and I have all this other stuff. And people constantly are shocked to hear that, no, this is number one. And with any car, I'm sure you hear this all the time.
Right.
It's a memory structure of love for people, right?
No, I know what you mean.
And it doesn't matter that it's got no structure. It's the one that makes me laugh.
Yeah. That's funny. That's funny.
And I think you'll enjoy driving it.
Oh yeah, I'm anxious because again, this is a car that it's like hearing a word as an adult. What's that? We never heard that word? No. You ever meet people go through life, there's one word they just never heard it.
Well, it's a very rare opportunity, I'm guessing, to have a normal car that you haven't experienced. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but you're a hoarder and you have a lot of cars here.
Well, yeah, but these are all in, I watch hoarders and I go, well, what's the problem? You can get to the bedroom. Look, there's an aisle.
Collectors are just organized hoarders.
These people are all crazy, And you still get to the bedroom. You have to go through the,
I got to your bathroom. I had to shimmy through a couple motorcycles.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Very good. All right.
Okay.
Let's close this up and across the famous stick as always.
And then it's just got two barely latchable.
I have to say the cabin looks incredibly comfortable. Those seats, those seats look like big German Mercedes-Benz type seats you'd have in a big, comfortable car. I mean, Germans are like us. They're not small people, so.
How tall are you?
I'm just barely 6 foot, maybe missed by a quarter.
Your hair, I'm sorry to tell you, is going to get a little bit scrunched. So you might have to wear like a
I'll have to live with that.
Yeah. It's pretty short on headroom.
But it looks quite comfortable.
It is.
5-speed.
5-speed.
Right.
I actually replaced the fifth gear because the original fifth gear had this thing screaming at 4,000 RPM at 70 miles an hour.
Oh, okay.
And so, not that I would ever speed,
right.
but if I were to do like 90 or 100 miles an hour, you're $5-6 grand the whole time, and it's just the engine revs to 7,200.
Right.
But it just feels terribly abusive.
But it's not, is it? Because I find I've got my little Honda 600 over there. Mm-hmm. That's 600 cc's, and the red line is 9,400 in 1964. Yeah. And as an American, I always feel like I'm always short shifting, but I realize that's worse.
Right.
So they love screaming right at the limit. So.
And I tell people all the time, German engines are meant to drive at their power peak indefinitely. That was the 190, the 300 SL's engineering target was indefinitely at its power peak. But it's a terrible feeling to just be at 6,000 RPM for 5 hours.
Right.
So it now is reasonable amount of revs.
And of course, it's a 4-seater. Do you ever think of taking out the rear seat and just making it a 2-seater?
And it'd be a lot more practical because you can't actually fit a human back there.
No. But do the seats fold down as well?
They do.
All right, so you can have a full cargo area here.
I moved 3 times I was 21 when I got this car.
Right.
So you do this stupid thing of moving from one small apartment to the other, and we'll throw everything in the Scirocco. How this thing survived.
Yeah. Oh, maybe you work on the relationships. You don't have to move so much.
I mean, it was more the evictions.
Evictions.
Just kept getting kicked out. Yeah. Oh. It was mostly because the car leaked so much oil in the driveway.
I'm beginning to understand. Yeah. Well, very cool. Let's see. Any other features we want to point out on the outside? It's a sunroof car, so you got the fully loaded version, eh?
Yeah, this one, there were only a couple options as the sort of, when the 16 valve came out. This was the top of the top. It was the fastest Volkswagen ever, the most powerful Volkswagen ever. And
which almost sounds like a misnomer. It almost sounds like a joke, the fastest Volkswagen ever.
not a high
Because
bar.
for years they prided themselves on, just get along and it's dependable. And how does a man with a snowplow get to the snowplow?
Yeah.
You know, they never really sold the idea of it being fast. So
until GTI, I guess, right?
Yeah, but I imagine that would be a hard sell because people get it in their mind. Like American Motors, they came out with the Javelin, they came out with the MX, but you always think Mom's grocery getter, the little Rambler, you know. So it's tough to change people's perception.
Period advertising is interesting. They did the ASME or one of those independent organizations. They had a bunch of videos that they gave to dealers for these cars, where they would show it out slaloming a Ferrari 308, out accelerating a 944, out braking everything else. Because I'm sure there was that image problem of Volkswagen as a Beetle. But so the 16 valve, you could get a sunroof, air conditioning, leather, or power pack, which is windows and doors, which I don't have.
Okay.
That's it.
And you got a hatchback here that opens. And
yeah. They gave it a big spoiler, which is, it's really funny. Back in the day, we thought this was terrible rearward visibility.
Yeah.
And this is before we realized that cars would be tanks now. This is one piece of glass that wraps all the way around. And the spoiler bisects it right at about kid height.
Right.
So it's pretty easy to run over your neighbor's kids by mistake.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to do that.
And well, it's your neighbors, so that's not a big deal. Well, can we take it for a ride?
I would love that.
Let's give it a shot. I'm anxious to get my first Scirocco experience.
You are probably the 10th person to drive this car in the last 26 years.
Wow. All right.
Do you have good insurance?
We're all set.
All right. I'll take the Shogun if anything happens.
Let me see.
And the Cyclone.
I can cover this.
Okay,
Yeah. Comfortable.
Is it?
Nice greenhouse.
Right. You can almost see out of it. Just happy to see you.
Yeah. Is it power steering? Yeah,
Power steering.
Power. Put my seatbelt on. Let's let it warm up a little bit.
Sure.
It's funny because Volkswagen had to fight that. You know, when they came out with that, was it called the Phaeton? Remember that V12 Volkswagen?
Yep.
They let me borrow one, and I thought, well, this thing is fabulous.
Too bad it's a Volkswagen.
Yeah, but that people go, a Volkswagen with a 12, how much? What's that? 30 grand? No, it's like 60. What?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't tell everybody Coke is the best and then come out with new Coke.
Right.
And now we like, well, the old one.
Yeah,
come on,
riot.
Now, admittedly, you've done things to this, and it feels good.
Thank you. The idea is to plus it. Just make it exactly the same character it used to have, just a little more.
Well, that's what I mean. I see so many custom cars sometimes. Guys will take a 57 Chevy, customize it. I don't see any 57 Chevy in it anywhere.
Right.
And it's like, okay, why don't you start with a modern car? And
right.
You got all Stuart Warner instruments and everything in it. Well, I mean, I want to see that old speedometer going like
jiggling.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've modified cars too far, and then you go back, because it's just you lose even the good and the bad. Remember, Italian design. You need to be able to bobbity-bobbity at everybody.
Nowadays, this would be horn, this would be wipers, this would be...
a butt, like a bidet butt spray thing.
Yeah, butt spray thing. You got some heat in it now?
I'll go for it.
Well, it does fit rev very nicely. You know, when I'm in a car like this, I have a great time by myself.
You want to get out?
Yeah, I was just thinking. Okay. No, but I don't like to, you know, I don't like to race people on the street or do, because I've always find if you're fooling around in a car and you're by yourself, a cop will cut you some slack. What are you doing? Well,
That's true.
All right, just take it. If you're dicing with another, that's it. That's it. Party's over. Even if you're like 5 over the limit, they're gonna get you.
You speed?
Well, that
5 over? Jay,
That would be wrong.
we're on television.
I know.
Standards and what were those standards and practices? Ooh.
The seats are very comfortable and very supportive.
I could sell you the car, but I won't.
Yeah. What would something like this go for now?
30s for the. I mean, it's a driver. It's a nice condition driver. A number one real show car would be pushing 38, 40.
Yeah.
This one, I put a diff in it, so you'll feel the torque steer. It's got all the performance mods, all Volkswagen stuff.
The Italians used to say you could never put more than 200 horsepower through the front wheels, or you veer left or right. And then the Tornado came out with 375 horsepower and never had torque steer.
But it also weighed 12 tons.
You know my Tornado. Do you know the story on that one?
No.
Oh, I should open the hood. We converted to rear-wheel drive.
You're kidding.
Yeah. It's got 1,076 horsepower.
Oh my God.
We made our own wheels out of solid billet.
Oh my God. But see, you proved the Italians right, because you didn't put 1,076 horsepower to the front.
No,
wheel.
well, that chain drive
Yo.
would not be able to take that much horsepower.
I used to have a policy with myself that until 80 Celsius, no more than a third throttle, no more than 1,000.
Yeah, that's a good rule to have.
But I talked to Porsche engineers and I said, how do you break in your own cars when you build your own motors? And they're like, as soon as it's 40 centigrade, we go for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? On a flat tappet engine? Oh, no, maybe 60. I just, 80 is my magic mark.
Well, I tell people now, don't warm it up at all because you're polluting.
Yeah, great. Don't warm it up and then buy a new engine at 80,000
Well,
miles.
that's what they want you to do.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's another thing. I'm always stunned that people think an engine is worn out at 60 grand. I know guys with Mercedes and be like, well, I got to get rid of it. It's got 60 on it. I don't take a chance.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think's going to happen? Mine's got 327,000.
Right. I had a 6.9 with 400,000 miles on it.
I didn't like the 6.9 because the headlights were this way instead of stacked. And it just seemed like a poor successor to the 6.3.
It was in a lot of ways.
Did you ever drive a 6.3?
Yes.
Wonderful car.
Stupid fast.
And it's only 250 horsepower.
I know.
I guess because it's a torque monster is probably
Yep.
why.
And there's that viscous coupling. It's got all that torque right off the line.
Right.
It's a monster.
Oh, it's a great car.
6.9 has the hydraulic Citroen. It never stops moving around.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fun because it was so stupid fast in a straight line. But so have you ever driven a GTI? First gen GTI?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, technically you are now, so. The ride, and these things have a 89-inch wheelbase.
Yeah.
So they're a little chompy,
Right.
little tiny cars. And this is not the stock suspension. Stock suspension was very soft.
Yeah. Proper gearbox.
You don't have to be nice just because you're on camera.
No,
you know?
I like it. I like it very much. Is it hard getting parts in Germany too, even?
Yeah. I can't get brake pads. I can't get key blanks.
You can't get brake pads.
Nothing. I mean, aftermarket now, yeah. But like stuff that, there's literally nothing available from the dealership for this car. Nothing.
It's interesting because so many manufacturers starting heritage centers. GM's got one.
Yep.
Mercedes-Benz,
Classic
Jaguar.
A. In Germany, this was viewed as like the ultimate white trash car. It was this and like Opel Manta.
Really?
Were like mandatory mullets and so Germans here, you have a Scirocco and they laugh at you, which of course makes me want it even more.
Now, was your dad in the service? Is that why you were in Germany?
He was in advertising and just got a job in Frankfurt running GM's worldwide ad
Oh, I see.
account.
Oh, you didn't go to school in Germany?
I did. High school. My last 3 years of high school were at an international school.
Was your family living there too?
Yeah, we all moved.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Why did you move to Germany?
Just because of his job.
Oh, because of
Yeah,
your job.
yeah.
Oh, okay. That would be the other side.
I'm from Brooklyn originally.
Oh, it's all right, yeah. That makes me smile. I like that.
I like that too.
I mean, I like it. I see why you like it.
It's silly. It's got a personality.
To me, I always like the small block V8 Ford, 289, 260, because they sound right. You just, they're
Sweet.
yeah. Yes, I like this. I like how responsive it is. It feels extremely light.
Good. I'm glad. Makes me happy to hear that. You're getting a lot of cars. There it is. All that rousing.
Oh yeah, it is
horsepower.
fun. Well, I always say all the fun's between 40 and 120. All these cars with this mega downforce, you're not going fast enough to use the downforce. What are you doing?
Going fast enough to get arrested, if anything.
I know.
Give me a car like this that's got, is 5.5 seconds to 60,
Yeah.
pulls a G on the skid pad, which this does, and has good brakes and a good shifter, and I'm a happy guy on a back road for 6 hours.
I remember the days when anything under 10 seconds to 60 was fast.
I'm still that way. I still say
Well,
that.
then the Hemi came out, and I remember picking up Car and Driver, and it was 6.3 to 6. That's ridiculous.
Possible.
Yeah.
Have you driven the Lucid Sapphire yet?
Yes, I have. I've got the Plaid.
The Plaid, yeah.
It's pretty close. I drove the Rimac.
Oh, yeah. That's me too.
It's only a tenth of a second faster than the Plaid, so it's so much fun when you can use all the power all the time. Well, that's what makes this fun. I've got a Miata with a Jackson supercharger on it, and I'm just screaming all the time, but I'm not screaming so much that I'm going to get arrested. I mean, that's what's fun about my Morgan three-wheel. I remember I was on Mulholland Drive. I'm coming around the corner. It's three wheels. The rear one's bouncing around. And I see a cop with a radar gun. I go, I just go by him, and nothing. So I go by and I pull off the side of the road and wait a minute. He doesn't come. I go back. He's still there with the radar gun. How you doing? Good. I go, was that okay? He goes, yeah, you're only going 38. It's 40. I go, really? I was only 38? I thought I was doing like 70.
I demand you give me a ticket.
Yeah, literally.
I was having too much fun.
I mean, but it was so much, and that's what this reminds me of. The engines feels like it's working a lot harder than it is.
There's nothing better than the light turns green and you dump the clutch, get a little wheel spin, shift at $7,000, you get the perfect shift into second, and then a Prius goes.
Yeah, right. That's
you.
what's funny. That's what's great about my Morgan. I'm doing all that, and I look over, and a woman's putting on lipstick. And I go, oh, okay. I guess
I'm not speeding yet.
Have you met anybody that has done like the ultimate one of these, boarded out, bigger ejector? The whole deal. Just made a.
You can get quite a lot of power out of these motors. So it's 2 liters. The figure this is about 170, 180 on a good day.
Yeah.
You can get them to 210, 220.
Right. Yeah.
But that's kind of the limit. This was Volkswagen's first water-cooled engine. It's
Right.
the same thing.
I guess that's right.
Yeah.
This was the first
This is
water
it.
cool. Wow.
And it started out as a 1.5.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be, by the way, a diesel.
Right.
So it's a very tiny little bore, tiny bore, long stroke, 1.5. So by the time you get to a 2-liter, you're 82.5 by 92.6.
Wow.
So it's got this insanely long stroke you can't do anymore. So you can, what everyone does is they turbocharge them, or they put VR6s in this car. But that just changes the character.
Everybody thought diesel would be the answer.
Yeah, turned out that didn't work, huh? Whoops.
Well, I remember when they used to sell premix in the gas station. I got that Saab 2-stroke.
Uh-huh.
And in Vermont and New England, those were very popular.
Yeah.
And the gas station would have a pump for premix.
Nuts. This is a new old stock transmission that I found.
Yeah.
My last one, they go in very big style. They lock up the front wheels and send you right off the road.
Wow.
With no notice. And so it did that.
Did you have that happen?
Yeah, it was terrifying. 75 miles an hour, just, thank God, right off the road.
You flat spot the tire?
Oh yeah, completely done. And so I found this new old stock transmission somehow that was 2 hours away, and I just immediately got in the car and drove it and got it there. But so now I know it's got to be the last one. So I got to be nice to this one.
What caused it to do that?
They shear. It's a multi-mode failure, but they shear rivets off of the ring gear on the differential.
Okay.
And the Volkswagen community calls it self-machining syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
So the rivet will pop off and then machine a hole in the case.
Oh, I see.
And then the case piece gets stuck in between the gears, and you lock them up, and you're done.
Wow.
The best part is no notice.
Wow.
I got a thud, and I'm like, oh, what was that? And by the time I could even react to it, it's horrifying.
You think there'd be a safety hazard?
You're thinking, well, you know, Volkswagen.
How
doesn't
many
do
miles
safety.
when that happened?
118, I think. So it made it a while. I mean, I was 21 when I got this car. You can imagine I wasn't exactly
Really?
nice to it. I've tracked it. I've autocrossed it. I've done. It's survived 21-year-old Jason.
Yeah.
47-year-old Jason is still in
Where are you
the
from
soul.
originally?
Brooklyn.
Oh, that's what you said.
Brooklyn, then Westchester, and then Germany.
Oh, Westchester. I was born in New Rochelle.
New Rochelle, really?
Yeah.
From Hastings. So it was Brooklyn. I'm born in Maimonides in.
You ever go to Leno's
Brooklyn.
Clam Bar, Greasy Nick's on the
No.
Boston Post Road?
No.
That's my uncle.
Really?
My cousin.
On Boston Post Road. I went
Yeah.
to the Westchester Conservatory of Music
Oh, is
to
that
play
right?
piano, which was on Post Road.
Oh, wow. So
Funny.
you're a musician, too.
Nah, I mean, they thought I had potential. Little did they know. I showed them.
You proved that, huh?
Showed
Those
them.
idiots.
Those morons. I didn't realize you were in New Rochelle. I knew you were in New York.
I'm surprised you don't have a louder exhaust system on
It's super sprint headers from the spaghetti headers all the way to the end.
this. No, it sounds great.
Yeah, but when I put it on, I cried. I literally cried because I paid more for this super sprint exhaust than I paid for the whole car.
Is that
And I
right?
was poor, and I was so upset that it was so quiet. But what are you gonna do?
Well, Jason, you opened my eyes, you know. I didn't have anything against these cars. It just didn't interest me because the 80s was kind of a dull time for me for automobiles, you know. There was so many other exciting things happening either in the recent past, you know. And when I get in this, the engine revs, it pulls hard. It's very go-kart-like. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So thanks for, you know, you build up prejudices when you get stuck in your way. You think you don't like something, you're not going to like it. But I did like this very much. So thanks for opening my eyes.
Thank you. It's not every day you get to school Jay Leno.
There you go. Not every day your voice goes up when you're talking to Jay Leno. So thanks, you guys. We'll see you next week.